Hi guys, and welcome back to Ronnie the Reader. Thank you so much for joining me on today's video. We are going to be doing the kind of mid-year book freakout tag, just kind of that mid-year check-in point. I'm filming this around July 4th. The video probably will be posted a couple of weeks later, like later into the month of July. But yeah, I'm excited to do this. I like doing this. It's a bit of a check-in, kind of let you know some of my thoughts on the first half of the year and what I've read already, and then a little bit of those plans for the second half. So there are 15 questions to get to, so we're going to go ahead and get started. The first one is the best book that you've read so far in 2024. And for me, this has been the case since January. This has been, I think, my favorite book of the year so far. I don't think any book has topped it, and that is Plain Bad Heroines by Emily M. Danforth. This was just such a shocking surprise. I normally am not a fan of huge or long books and long chapters or anything. This book I think is around 650 pages or somewhere around there. It's definitely it was a really shocking biggest surprise, it actually wasn't the biggest surprise, but it was a surprise that I really loved this book as much as I did. I just thought it was really amazing, and it definitely is my favorite of the year so far. Nothing has beaten it. I don't know if anything will. We will have to see, how the second half of the year goes. But yeah, that's my answer to this one. The second question is the best sequel you've read so far in 2024, and this is an answer by default because it's actually the only sequel that I have read so far. I'm not a huge series reader at this point in my life, but that is The Obelisk Gate by N.K. Jemisin, and this unfortunately was a little bit of a disappointment. I just didn't connect with it as much as it seems like everyone else did. I really enjoyed the first book, and then the second one just felt really slow, and I just wasn't enjoying it as much as I did the first book, even though I knew where the first book was heading. I was spoiled on kind of the ending. This one I just found myself feeling like it was very repetitive. I wasn't super invested in where the characters were going or what they were doing, and if I'm being totally completely honest, I don't even think I can recall maybe one scene in this book. I know that it's really sad and the writing is really good and it's really beautiful, just the story itself did not stick. So the third question is what is a new release that you have not yet read but still would like to before the end of the year? And I have two answers to this one. First is Daughter of Mine by Megan Miranda. This is the newest Megan Miranda book that has come out just a couple of weeks ago. I think it came out in either May or June. Same with the other answer, which is The Last Murder at the End of the World by Stuart Tartan. Both of these were really anticipated. Daughter of Mine mostly because it's a Megan Miranda, and I really enjoy Megan Miranda's mystery thrillers. I know they're not for everyone. A lot of people find them boring and uninteresting, but I actually really enjoy just the way that the stories unfold. And I don't know, she somehow just always seems to surprise me and make me feel invested, and has just interesting, uniquely set stories, which I find entertaining. And then Last Murder at the End of the World is, of course, the third book by Stuart Tartan, who wrote The Seven Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle and The Devil in the Dark Water. I absolutely loved the Evelyn Hardcastle novel. Wasn't a huge fan of The Devil in the Dark Water, but both were still written really, really well. He's a really good writer, and this one is a really uniquely told story. I actually did start it briefly as an audiobook, but I think that I want to read it physically. I just wasn't connecting to the audiobook of it, and I think reading the book physically will do me better, so I'm thinking of buying it or maybe getting it as the ebook copy version of the book instead of the audiobook, but we'll see. Both of these, though, definitely will be read by me before the end of this year for sure. Question 4 is the most anticipated release that you have for the second half of this year, and this is a little bit different. It's going to be a YA male-male romance, and that is What Is This Feeling by Robbie Weber. And this is the newest release by this author. I've read their other two books and enjoyed both of them a lot. They are just good, clean, fun, YA romances. This one is coming out in September. I think it's September 19th or somewhere around there, maybe. But yeah, I'm just excited to see how this one goes and where it goes. I don't really have that many mystery thrillers or horror books that I'm super anticipating for the second half of the year. There are a few, but I am pretty excited for this one and kind of see where it falls on the scale. This will be my third book by this author, like I said, so kind of excited to see how that goes. Question 5 is the biggest disappointment that you've had so far this year, and for this one, it's gonna be Something in the Water by Catherine Steadman for me. This book got a 3.5-star rating when I read it. I did read it as part of a mystery thriller vlog thing that I did, reading like Reese's book club pick books. And I was anticipating this book to be really just crazy because everyone who seems to read it seems to say that it's absolutely amazing and like one of the best mystery thrillers that they've read. Maybe I just like exaggerated those in my mind because when I read this book, I did not get any of that. It was definitely thrilling and exciting, which is where the 3.5 rating came from. But as far as the actual mystery, one, it doesn't even really start until like 30% in the book or something like that. Before of it is just kind of build up. And then the actual mystery itself, I didn't find that engaging for the most part, and the ending was pretty just by the numbers, by the book. You kind of saw where it was probably going in the end, so it just wasn't something that blew my mind, and I was disappointed by it, unfortunately. I definitely am interested in other Catherine Steadmans. There's a couple of her other books that she's come out with that I would be interested in reading, which I think will tell me if she kind of goes the way of like a Megan Miranda, where maybe this one just wasn't it for me, but I really enjoy her other releases, or more of along the lines of like a Liv Constein author duo who the books are fine, but they're just very rooted in kind of the same themes, and it's not necessarily about the mysteries or the kind of investigation. It's more about the like character dynamics and character journey that you go on. So we'll see, but yeah, unfortunately Something in the Water did not work for me. Question 6 is the biggest surprise that you've had so far this year, and for me, this one is going to be Recursion by Blake Crouch. This had been sitting on my bookshelf for, I don't even know how long, like 3 or 4 years maybe. I had read Dark Matter by Blake Crouch and really, really liked it in either 2018 or 2019, but just never got around to Recursion. Decided to kind of pick it up as part of reading Backlist Sci-Fi. I was going to do a whole video on it, but I am not at this point. Never got around to it, but Recursion absolutely like blew me away. I just thought it was so fast-paced, so entertaining, so engaging, with a really interesting but still pretty simple to follow storyline for kind of a confusing topic as it is. It does have to deal with like time travel in a certain manner to speak, and kind of like our conscious and like how we interact with the world with the knowledge that we have, and what that does to us when we maybe have different knowledge of, you know, time travel or alternate realities, that kind of situation. So it just was really, really good, and the ending was really good. I just kind of flew through the last like 150 pages because it just was kind of going and going and going. It has one of my favorite things, which is like pretty short chapters. It is dual POV, so that also helps, I think, with the engagement of the story. You're kind of always bouncing around to something new and exciting. So yeah, Recursion by Blake Crouch, biggest surprise of the year, and it's probably my number 2 of the year so far, only behind Plain Bad Heroines as far as books that I really loved. Question 7 is the newest favorite author that you've read, and I've actually not read any repeat authors this year as far as like reading 2 books by the same author within this one calendar year yet so far. There are obviously authors that I've read in the past that I've read some from since then, but an author that intrigued me that I'm definitely interested in checking out more of their work that I read for the first time this year was Philip K. Dick when I read Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep. I'm really interested in checking out The Man in the High Castle by Philip K. Dick, which I know was also adapted into a TV show, I think on Amazon Prime. So I'm interested in definitely checking out that book and maybe checking out the show. I know it's supposed to be really good. But yeah, I know obviously Philip K. Dick is like a super famous sci-fi writer and author. And I know he has a huge, long kind of backlist catalog of novels, short stories, novellas, all of that sort of stuff. So definitely interested in diving into more of his work and seeing kind of how that goes and where that goes for me. As you may know, I'm kind of on a journey of getting back into sci-fi, hopefully, and finding out what I like about sci-fi. And part of that, I definitely want to check out some of the classic sci-fis that are out there. And Philip K. Dick is a really classic sci-fi author. 8 is your newest fictional crush. Now, I typically don't crush on characters when I read them. Just not something that I do. So I am changing the answer a little bit to maybe favorite couple. I'm reserving that for the future, but to kind of answer this question, a love interest that I really, really loved this year from when I read was Brad from Lose You to Find Me. This is a little bit of a spoiler, I think, so feel free to jump to the next question. All the timestamps will be down below. But Brad is a kind of closeted queer high school hockey player, I think, from Lose You to Find Me, and him and the main character Tommy are kind of hooking up before the start of the story. And then Tommy starts seeing this other guy in the book, who I think his name was Gabe. I don't even remember, but that kind of fizzles out, and the entire time it's kind of obvious that Brad probably likes Tommy a little bit more, but Tommy is being really annoying. So they definitely, while I would say they were probably the couple I was rooting for the hardest this year, they probably weren't my favorite couple. I don't know if there's any favorite couples that I've read this year, which is why I said I'm reserving that question for future years to potentially use. But as far as Brad, I just really loved him, and I thought he was super sweet, and my only complaint of his character is that I wish he was in the book more. I would have much rather, I think, gone on the journey of Brad and Tommy more closely than Brad and Gabe, if that is even his name, and even Tommy himself. I think I would have preferred the book be set from Brad's point of view, or at least been kind of alternating, so you kind of were for sure in the know that Brad did like him like more, but maybe that could also be frustrating. I don't know, but Brad, really loved him, and he deserved better, and him and Tommy do end up together in the end, and I hope that Tommy treats him good, because Brad is a sweetheart. So then question 9 is your new favorite character that you have read, and for me, I'm actually going to pick Helena from Recursion by Blake Crouch. I really enjoyed her chapters and her POV and her storyline in Recursion. It was super interesting, and I loved Helena's sense of character. She kind of always wanted to do the right thing, and made a lot of sacrifices to make that happen. And I just really felt for her and our other main character who is in Recursion as well. Both of them I thought were well-constructed characters, which I found refreshing, because I know that an aspect of sci-fi, especially when it may be written by men at times, is kind of the underwriting or underserving of those female main characters. But I feel like Helena maybe broke that mold or broke that stereotype a little bit. So I definitely enjoyed her a lot this year. 10 is super brief. It's a book that made you cry, and as far as my knowledge, I've not cried at any books of this year. I typically don't cry too much in books. So yeah, I don't think I've cried at a book this year so far. So that's my answer is not. Question 11 is a book that made you happy, and for this one I picked My Fair Brady by Brian D. Kennedy, which could have also gone in Biggest Surprise. It's a YA male-male romance, and it just is a cute, fun story that I gave 5 stars. I was really surprised by it. It just was really fun and entertaining and engaging, and I just liked reading my time with it. There wasn't too many heavy topics or like super depressing things that were going on. Of course, there were struggles that our characters were going through, and you're reading from teenagers, so there is a bit of the angst aspect there, but it just was a fun, like clean, fluffy ride all the way through for that book. Number 12 is your favorite book to movie adaptation, and I've actually only seen Blade Runner adapted from Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick this year, but I actually, because of that, watched Blade Runner 2049, which I had never seen before. I had seen Blade Runner in the past, but it was a long, long time ago, but I actually enjoyed 2049 a lot more than the original Blade Runner. I don't know if that's like an unpopular opinion, but I thought it was a really good, fun ride. And I can see why people maybe thought that both were a little boring, but I really enjoyed my time. So that's going to be my answer, is Blade Runner 2049, even though that has no direct book comparison that it was adapted from. 15th question is your favorite video that you've posted this year. And for me, that's going to be the author chat that I did on Riley Sagar. I just really enjoy talking about his books. I always kind of find something new when I am revisiting them and talking about them in some sort of way, and I really enjoy talking about them with other people who have read them. So that's my favorite video that I've done this year. It is maybe a little bit out of the date now, because I have since read Middle of the Night, which was the video that I did 2 weeks ago now from the time that I'm posting this. So definitely check out that video to kind of get my updated rankings and see where Middle of the Night falls for his works for me. 14 is the most beautiful book you bought this year, and for me, you know, I love a simple, clean cover, so I'm actually going to go with A History of Fear by Luc Damas. Let's see if I can get this to... Here we go. I just really enjoy simple covers that kind of have a sleek, kind of cool backdrop with bright, bold text. That's kind of simple, and so this is my kind of cover. And I really like it. I love the blue with the red. I think it's super contrasting. And when I do look at this cover, I'm just like, wow, this is really intriguing to me and really pulling me in. Maybe not everyone agrees, but I really like this. And it's definitely on my list, like my short list to get to soon. I'm hoping before the end of July. We'll see how I feel. But yeah, I'm definitely going to be picking this one up pretty soon. And then finally, question 15 is, what are the books that you absolutely need to get to before the end of this year? So some ones that I've already mentioned: Daughter of Mine, Last Murder at the End of the World, What Is This Feeling? Some other ones that I have not yet mentioned that I'm really wanting to get to. One is All the Light Left Burning by Eric J. Brown. His book released for this year, which is the sequel to All That's Left in the World. Which I'm really scared to read because I loved All That's Left in the World so much. So I'm super scared to read a sequel to it and see how I feel because I don't want it to be ruined. But I absolutely loved All That's Left in the World, and I loved the vibes that came with it. Lose You to Find Me, which was a radical departure from that, was a little bit disappointing with some of the things when I did read that earlier this year. So I think that also is weighing on my heart a little bit for this particular book. But I for sure am going to read it, and I am scared to do so, but I definitely want to because I do want to see the continuation of the story from All That's Left in the World. And then kind of on a different spectrum, I'm really intrigued by Horror Movie by Paul Tremblay. Now, I did read Cabin at the End of the World by Paul Tremblay years ago in 2018, I think, and I did not like it as much. I think I gave it maybe 2.5 or 3 stars. I just found it a little boring. It was only like maybe 200 or 250 pages, and I think it took me like 2 or 3 days to read. I just wasn't into it, wasn't a fan of it, so I have not read any other Paul Tremblays as of yet, but this one is really just pulling me in. It's about a topic that I really am into, which is horror movies. So yeah, I'm definitely intrigued by that one and plan on getting getting to that by the end of the year. So that was the last question. So definitely let me know your answers to any of these questions down below. I would love to know. And yeah, that is it for me in this particular video. So thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye.